back to this Real America's Voice news break. I'm Terrence Bates. We are continuing to learn more about what may have motivated this week's shooting at Annunciation Catholic Church there in Minneapolis. We're also hearing from the father of 8-year-old Fletcher Merkel. Fletcher is one of the 2 kids who were killed in that heinous attack.
Please remember Fletcher for the person he was and not the act that ended his life. Give your kids an extra hug and kiss today. We love you, Fletcher. You'll always be with us.
As for the continuing investigation into the attack, Minneapolis police and federal officials say the 23-year-old killer was familiar with the church and the school attached to it.
The shooter expressed hate towards almost every group imaginable. There appears to be only one group that the shooter didn't hate. One group of people who the shooter admired. The shooter idolized some of the most notorious school shooters and mass murderers in our country's history.
Vance is traveling the country touting President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. He spent part of the day Thursday with Secretary of the Interior Doug Burgum in Wisconsin. The two visited a steel-making facility in La Crosse, Wisconsin, to highlight the bill's tax cuts and for middle-class workers and its potential benefits for the U.S. steel industry. However, the vice president also found himself talking about crime in this country and the attack in Minneapolis.
This happens too much in our country. And if you look, we really do have, I think, a mental health crisis in the United States of America. We take way more psychiatric medication than any other nation on earth. And I think it's time for us to start asking some very hard questions about the root causes of this violence. And I'm going to be part of that, and the First Lady and the President are going to be part of that. But that's going to be an American conversation that we're going to have together.
The vice president also used the stage to offer up a public prayer for the victims and for their families. Again, mental health is said to be potentially behind this particular attack, as the alleged shooter was a transgender person. Well, that's going to do it for your headlines. I'm Terrence Bates. Now, let's get you back to the Charlie Kirk Show.
Stops here. The Charlie Kirk Show.
All right, welcome back, everybody. Andrew Kolvet in for Charlie Kirk, who'll be back in hour 2 with Secretary Noem and Tyler Boyer, who runs our C4 Turning Point Action. But before I bring in Ben Bergquam, my good friend, who I love seeing Ben and all the stuff that he's doing all over the country, I'm going to tell you about Hillsdale College. History, economics, the great works of literature. Did you study these things in school? Probably not. But even if you did, it's probably time for a refresher. Hillsdale College is offering more than 40 free online courses, including their newest course on totalitarian novels. In this free 8-lecture course, you'll learn from Hillsdale College president Larry Yarn as he goes in-depth on 4 novels: 1984, Brave New World, Darkness at Noon, and That Hideous Strength. Even though these novels were written in the 1930s and 40s, they are extraordinarily relevant today. More importantly, they can show us that faith, family, and friends are worth fighting for. This country is worth fighting for. Maybe you read these books a long time ago. Maybe you've heard others talk about them and they seem a little intimidating. They don't have to be, because Hillsdale walks you through them. You're going to sound like an expert on the other side of this. Plus, you got to take their Constitution 101 course. They got a C.S. Lewis course. There's so much good stuff there. Go right now to charlieforhillsdale.com to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. That's charlieforhillsdale.com to register. CHARLIE for Hillsdale.com. Go there right now. Now joining the show is the great, the one, the intrepid Ben Bergquam. Ben, how are you, my friend? Where on earth are you? What have you been up to? You were texting me, telling me all your travels and adventures, and it's tremendously important what you're doing. I hope you're having a good time and staying very safe. Ben, the floor is yours.
Yeah. Hey, Andrew. Great to be with you, brother. So we started this week actually in San Diego. We're doing a follow-up border tour from what we, basically comparing the last administration to the current administration. Started with the Border Patrol tunnel team out of San Diego, met with the director down there, the chief of the San Diego sector, and then we've been hopscotching our way over here, went through El Paso, also Nogales. What's crazy in Nogales, it's everywhere along the way. The moral of the story, the overarching theme is the border is more secure today than it's ever been. But one of the things I saw in Nogales, there is a cartel lookout, a scout location where a year ago I went out there and they had a whole bunker set up and it was basically all controlled by the cartels. When President Trump came in, he had the Mexican military go in there and clean that out. Well, since that time, there's a new cartel scout on that very same mountain. And it goes back to why it's so important that President Trump's talking about using our military to go in after the cartels. This is the war that we need to be focused on, not the war in Ukraine, not the wars overseas, but the war at our doorstep on our southern border. I just got to ride with ICE 2 days ago in their ERO out of San Antonio. We've got some amazing clips from that. We're still editing, and we're finishing up here. I'm in Harlingen, Texas, at the repatriation, deportation flights. So we did a deportation flight in Gary, Indiana, and that basically moves the illegals from that location down here. Now we're at the final location before the illegals are moved out of our country, and we were here for one of those this morning. We'll be releasing that video later today. But it is, the moral of the story, Andrew, is it's the most secure border we've ever had. It's also partly in part the amount of deportations, the scale of what we're talking about could only be done with the joint operations that we see between all the agencies, the sister agencies. You've got ICE, you got ERO, HSI, but today we had U.S. Marshals. A lot of the places you'll have FBI, DOD, DEA, all of these different agencies working together on this one mission. And the bottom line is it's the difference between Joe Biden, America last, and President Trump, America first.
Yeah, I mean, that's well said, Ben. I mean, we're showing all this footage. I'm not sure if you can see it, of all of this footage you've been gathering the last couple of days, these raids, these arrests, the deportation flights. Just get us into the mindset, the morale of our men and women that are working on these deportations, especially since the One Big Beautiful Bill passed. They've been injected with resources. I mean, I personally talked with Tom Homan a couple of times, a bunch of times actually, and he was like, we need more money. We need more money. We need more money for flights, for beds. And also explain the process of these deportation flights. You said you started in Indiana and then you went to San Diego. So 2 questions. The floor is yours, Ben.
Yeah, so morale has never been higher, and I would say morale had never been lower. I talked to Border Patrol and ICE agents during Joe Biden's administration. They couldn't go on camera. There was a media blackout, but off the camera, they told us morale had never been lower. Now it's never been higher. These guys are able to do their jobs again. Many of them were former service members in the military. They've sworn that oath a couple times, and they just want to be able to do their jobs. And so from that standpoint, they're able to do that now, and they're pumped up about it. What you're seeing, some of this, you're seeing some of the repatriation flights, but some of the footage you guys were showing was from our operation in San Antonio just 2 mornings ago. And that was from one house, just to give you an idea of what we're talking about. So ICE has, let's say, a fugitive. In this case, we were going after, it was a criminal warrant going after this fugitive that was living in this house. They had the SRT team, the special response team going out there. Basically, it looks like SWAT. We went in with the Bearcat, but it's the ICE's version of that. They go in. We had some flashbangs deployed. We ended up capturing that one fugitive, but within that same house, there were 5 total illegals, 2 of whom also had felony warrants. This is one house in one community. There are thousands, tens of thousands of houses like this across America. So when Tom Homan talks about needing more funding, it's a hell of a lot cheaper to let these people flow in. So for the last 4 years, we had NGOs, the United Nations, all these groups working to invite people in. You had the previous administration taking them from the border and shipping them basically wherever they wanted to go in the country. Now you've got Tom Homan, Kristi Noem, Rodney Scott, all working together to stop the bleeding at the border, but then go and capture these individuals. And that's really, each one of these is a targeted apprehension. So what what'll happen, and just to kind of answer some of the questions, it's not when they're going out there, typically they're not random. They're going after a specific target. But like in the case that we saw in San Antonio, they go into a house after a target. They find 5 other individuals. They check their legal status. And if those individuals happen to be here illegally, they're getting picked up too. And so they're prioritizing the worst first. So they're going after the worst, picking those guys up, and then they're allowing them to adjudicate their process. Now, in this case, this guy had been deported multiple times, their primary target. He had also fled from law enforcement. That's why this case was raised to a criminal warrant. He's going to be deported quickly. Some of the other people are in that due process where the left says, oh, nobody gets due process. They're deporting citizens. It's an absolute lie. Every single person that's getting deported, all the people that we saw this morning get flown out of this country, have had their day in court. They've been able to see an immigration judge. It's been determined that they don't have authorization to be here, and it's time for them to leave. Sometimes that process starts, say, in Gary, Indiana, or in Chicago. Gary, Indiana is kind of the hub for outside of Chicago, so the flights will typically go out of Gary. But those flights will then move further south, usually. The primary hubs for final deportations are Mesa, Arizona. You've got it here in Harlingen, Texas, and then Alexandria, Louisiana. So they'll eventually be moved down to one of these locations. Once their case has been adjudicated, then and it's determined that they're going to be deported, then they'll be basically the international flight process of ICE Air will be taken out of one of these 3 main locations.
ICE Air. Oh, I love that. ICE Air.
It's nice.
I'll buy stock in that, baby.
Hey,
so Ben, and I'm going to give the audience a little preview. Charlie's going to be speaking with Secretary Noem in the next hour, so I don't want to ruin all the excitement, but basically, we have about 350,000 illegals have now been deported, and that's on top of 1.6 million self-deportations. And this is the little nugget I'm gonna give. And Secretary Noem, I don't want to steal her thunder, but the number one video, or the number one, I guess, motivation for self-deportations, Ben, are the videos out of CCOT, out of El Salvador. So when illegals know that if they get arrested, they might go to CCOT or they might go to El Salvador and Bukele is going to get a hold of them, that's what's motivating a lot of them to get out on their own, which is by far the best option because we don't put ICE agents in harm's way. We don't have them doing a dangerous raid where they might get shot or stabbed or something terrible. They're doing it on their own and they're taking off. Ben, are you seeing with these arrests and these videos, DHS seems to be very aware that these videos are powerful because they're a motivating factor for illegals all over the country to get out on their own accord. Are they sort of, have they embraced this? Have they isolated this? And that's why we're seeing you get embedded with these groups all over the country?
Yeah, so that's part of it. Part of it is telling, well, I'd say it's twofold. Part of it's telling the truth, unlike the fake news media who are pushing propaganda and lies. They want the truth to be told. So, media that will actually come out here and tell the truth, will show what's actually happening, give you the full picture. That's part of it. But you're absolutely right. They want you to show, and I'll just give you a perfect example. Same thing. I'm gonna break a little news. We haven't released the interview yet, but I met with the field office director out of San Antonio, and he said it very simply. You can self-deport and leave on your own terms, or you can wait for us to find you and you leave on our terms. And that's having a major impact on the illegals that are already here. At first when Kristi Noem came out with, we had the CBP-1 under Joe Biden, which invited the invasion. Now you have the CBP Home app, which allows you to go in and say, okay, I'm here illegally. I want to go home. I want to do it on my own terms. I don't want to be deported and never have an opportunity to come back in again. So I'm going to do this. And when they first came out with that, I thought, I wonder how many people are going to actually use it. Apparently, a large number. Some of those people we're finding out they're not actually even using the app. They're just going back. So we'll get exit interviews as they're going through the Mexican border, as they're crossing back through. They're saying, I was here. I didn't have authorization. I'm going back. We're just letting those people go. If you want to go home, we're letting you go. Assuming that you don't have some criminal warrant in the United States, doing some background checks on them as well. But this CBP Home app is having a bigger impact than I thought. I thought originally it was just a publicity stunt. but it actually is. And it goes back to exactly what you're saying, what ICE is releasing, why they're having us come out here showing this. And you know, it really is sad. You got some of the people that, you know, that you got the children that are getting sent back with their adult parents who came here illegally. You kind of feel bad for the kids. I've got young kids, but it was those parents who made that choice. Now, if you're a parent in America illegally, you also have the choice to go home on your own accord and take your kids and not put them through this. It's not ICE that's doing this to you. It's you that's doing this to you.
1,000%. Parents need to take responsibility. And what I love about all this is that we're not falling for the sob stories anymore, right? There's been no citizens that have been deported, okay, unless they're taking the parents taking the child home. More with Ben Bergquam when we get right back.